morning, English funkers. This is Professor Frank, the coolest motherfucking English teacher on YouTube. Today we are going to discuss the most important rule of public speaking that you should never, ever break, except for one or two exceptions. And that rule, no reading when speaking in public. Let's get into it. We are here in the White House press secretary briefing room, and coming to the stage is a fine sister. Her name is Susan Elizabeth Rice. She's 56 years old. She graduated from Stanford University with honors. She won a Rhodes Scholarship to a college in Oxford where she earned her master's and doctorate degree. This is one fine, smart sister. She was invited to speak publicly about an initiative the government is going to undergo. She worked for the Clinton administration. She's been an ambassador for the United States to the UN. One would assume with all her degrees and all her experiences, she's not going to break the number one rule in public speaking. Let's take a look.
Jen, thanks. The President has committed the whole of our government to advancing racial justice and equity for all Americans. I'm leading this effort out of the Domestic Policy Council. I've assembled a first-rate team to drive this agenda forward. We'll hold the federal government accountable for advancing equity for families across America.
Freeze it right there. The reason you do not read when you're speaking in public is because you first lose credibility with your audience. Second, you lack the ability to judge your audience reaction. And third, your believability is reduced significantly when you lose eye contact. Did you know that 50% of your believability is not actually what you say? It's how you look. And this is one fine looking sister. So she's got 50% going for her. However, when you speak and your eyes go down to read, you lose credibility with your audience. Public speaking is not reading. You should know your content and you should be able to convey it in an articulate manner without reading, looking at notes, even looking at a teleprompter. If you're tasked with speaking in public, it's essential. No notes, no reading. I did mention the one exception is when you need to cite a specific, sometimes you may need to read verbatim a quote, for example. But besides that, you not bring up a document that's multiple pages that you're flipping through. That loses your authenticity and your believability. Remember, 50% of your believability is how you look. And again, this is one fine looking sister. So she has that going for her. But the next 50% of your believability is how you convey your message. And the golden rule is no reading. Why even have her come up and speak? Why not just hand out the document that she's reading from? That's much more effective in conveying a message than having someone go up and read to you while they're bobbing their head up and down. And we're going to move fastly through this speech, but check out the eye contact and the head bobbing and how distracting it is. After all her degrees, all her experience, 20 plus years working in the government, a Rhodes Scholar honor. She went to school in Oxford where she earned her master's, her doctorate, and she still doesn't know the golden rule of public speaking. Do not read. Roll it.
I have the support of every White House office and every agency in this work because, as President Biden has made clear, advancing equity is everybody's job. Tackling these challenges, though, is personal for me. I'm the descendant of immigrants from Jamaica, and
freeze it right there. She's about to tell a very personal story on the subject which she's speaking about. She's about to say that she's descendants of slaves. This is not something you need to read. This is personal. And look how impersonal an otherwise truly telling story could be when you're head bobbing and reading. Roll it.
Enslaved Americans. My grandparents and my parents are beneficiaries of the American dream, and so am I. My family's story is a remarkable one of the march towards greater equality and opportunity. But for too many American families, systemic racism and inequality in our economy, laws and institutions still put the American dream far out of reach.
Freeze it there. As you can see, she had a heartwarming story that she could tell. And when I say don't read, that doesn't mean you memorize a speech either. You have to know your subject material well enough that you can speak about it. And if you think there's no way that you can do that, trust me, you can. F. Lee Bailey, one of the greatest trial attorneys who actually had to make a living by communicating orally. Let's listen to what F. Lee Bailey said on the excuse of, well, I can't possibly remember all of this stuff.
This is not a place for notes or outlines or cribs or other crutches. This is a place to say what you know, what you want to express, to do it in paragraphs, not choppy little sentences. There must be a recognition of the profound difference between the written word, which is excellent, and the spoken word, which is excellent. And the differences are several. First, the written word is then read by the speaker. Well, there's no need for the speaker to even come. Send your secretary. Whoever can read best. That is not a speech. And yet we see over and over again world leaders reading. As a matter of fact, a guy from the Atomic Energy Commission was in Congress yesterday, and he had stapled his pages together. And a sentence was broken at the bottom of the page. And he had a terrible time flipping that page over so he could continue whatever it was he thought he was saying. His audience was doing something else by then. People say, well, I could never remember all that information. And indeed, the first time they try, they probably get this close to the podium and the knees begin to go like this. Well, you can remember it. How in the world do you think stage actors get off 2 hours of lines without reading from the script, where you must keep your eyes on the target and flex all of the weapons you have, from your tempo to the choice of language to the pace to the volume at which you move through your talk based on what you see. And therefore, the fellow who has one of these and is trying to refer to it every now and then to pick up the next topic so he doesn't forget it, gives up that critical element. Not only is it the information that's coming this way to the speaker at the podium to give him on a moment's notice in which way he should tailor his presentation to get maximum attention and penetration of those who are listening, but it also is important to the listener. If the speaker's got his head in a bunch of notes and is not looking at you, how interesting is that? Not.
And as you just heard, if you're going to speak publicly, no reading. You can do it without any type of notes, without any type of cue cards. It takes practice, and it takes a full understanding of the topic for which you're about to speak. Let's move this video forward and just look at the body language. I'm not judging the content of what she's saying. I actually don't even care what she's talking about. Just the body language of her eyes and her face, and tell me if it's an effective means of communication. So after 8 minutes, you have over 150 times of her head bobbing up and down like a headbanger, and our eyes losing contact with the audience. Again, when you speak in public, no reading, no notes, no teleprompter. The only time you should ever read anything is if you have to actually cite a specific passage. Otherwise, no reading, no notes. Keep your eyes on your audience, or you will lose your credibility and your authenticity. And more important, your believability. Not everyone can look as good as his fine sister, but surely you can increase your technique in public speaking in order to be more effective. This is Professor Frank, the coolest motherfunkin' English teacher on YouTube. What up, little gangsters? I'm funkin' out.